You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth!
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Welcome back, everyone. Just hanging out here in the studio, and I got to thinking about some stuff. You know, in America, we got this strange relationship with plants. It's very interesting, and there's one plant called tobacco, right? And it's grown in mostly the American South, and it's this legal plant. It's completely legal. You know, there's a whole industry that's set up on manufacturing, growing this plant, and treating it, and processing it and rolling it into cigarettes and mass marketing it and selling it to Americans 18 and older. It's tobacco. Everybody's pretty familiar with it. And then there's this other plant that also has a long history in America called cannabis. Hemp is how our founding fathers knew of it. And in fact, this year is the 400th anniversary of its planting at the Jamestown colonies. And the founding fathers and the colonists were all required to pay their taxes in hemp, and they drafted the Declaration of Independence on hemp and so on. So it was used as a textile crop for the most part. But lately, in this century, in the last century, it's been known as a medicine. It's been even going back to 1850 with O'Shaughnessy. This cannabis plant's been known as a medicine and a recreational relaxant, something people could smoke to kind of feel good. Similar to tobacco, I mean, a lot of people smoke this tobacco plant because they say it makes them feel good, allows them to socialize and relax. So we've got these two plants in America, both with a long history, both with sustained economies that are reliant on the American consumer to use them. Of course, while that tobacco industry is completely legal and a very strong power player in Washington politics, that cannabis industry isn't. That cannabis plant's completely illegal, and no one's allowed to produce it legally, and they can be shipped off to prison if they do. And the people that use it, that smoke it, on even a irregular basis, can be subject to massive penalties and incarceration and loss of their jobs and their property if they're caught with it. So we've got these two plants, tobacco and cannabis, and both of them have a long history. Now, I have a little tin here, and in this tin, I asked my intern, Kaliko, to choose, and we've got both of these plants here today. We've got some dry leaf tobacco, the free roll tobacco, and we've got the free roll cannabis, right? And we've got both here, and I just asked him to pick randomly, which one he would load up into this little tin here. And I just wanted to see if if we could tell just by the reaction and what happened during the processing and use of this plant, if you viewers out there could tell which plant it was. Because, we've heard so much about this tobacco plant, and we've heard so much about this cannabis plant. And of course, the cannabis plant is completely illegal. Nobody is allowed, if this was cannabis that is in this tin, and I'm not going to tell you which is in here. One's cannabis, one's tobacco. And I can tell, obviously, because I'm taking care of this, but you don't know. And I want to just see if you can tell which one it is, by the effect that we observe here on the camera after I use this little machine to get it all prepared. Because here in America, if this is tobacco that's in my little tin, what I'm doing right now is just perfectly legal, just relaxing, just hanging out, having a good time, and enjoying a processed plant. So if this is tobacco, everything here is perfectly legal. And if this is cannabis, I'm breaking a federal law. And it's hard to tell, really, don't you think? I mean, nothing crazy seems to be happening. I don't hear sirens, and I don't hear air raid alerts, or nobody's going crazy here. I haven't, started beating Kaliko or anything. I'm still running the show okay. Gosh, we got about 7 minutes to go. Everything seems to be happening all right. So this must be tobacco that's in this. Because what I've heard about this cannabis is that, it leads to psychoses. It can lead to schizophrenia. No way I could be running a talk radio show if this were leading to schizophrenia or psychosis right now. So this has to be tobacco. I mean, it has to be tobacco because nothing bad's happening here. We've heard so much about this cannabis that it can lead to harder drugs. And, well, I'm looking around the studio and I don't see any harder drugs. I don't detect any around here. So since there's no harder drugs here, this has to be tobacco. that I'm smoking here, because if it were cannabis, some bad things would be happening. Oh, I know. They also said that, cannabis would lead to problems with cognition and short-term memory, right? If you were to smoke cannabis, it'd be very hard to remember things like being able to run a DJ studio, a Google spreadsheet, a Google browser, a live stream, a recording computer, a webcam max, a Skype machine, and a 32 channel or 24 channel board with 4 sub outs. So since I'm doing all of that, and since there's 2 people out sick today and I'm managing to cover all that, this has to be tobacco. There's no way someone could accomplish this as a cannabis consumer. I just don't see how that would be possible. They'd also said that it would cause problems. Cannabis use would cause problems with amotivation. Like you wouldn't be able to accomplish things. You'd be so slacker and so lazy that you just wouldn't want to get anything done. And yet I'm looking at the blog here, and it seems to me that I wrote, oh, I don't know, this looks like about 1,500 words today before the show began. I got this big old post on the Washington dispensaries and had to do a couple research things for that. And this one up here on the Starbucks thing, I had to actually look at 3 different websites and research a couple court cases on that today. And also send a bunch of emails out to all the people I was at Normal Conference with. Managed to find a song for today as well, that Jazz Chronic song. And also the CNN thing on the polls. I updated the graph for all those polls. Oh, and since Pennsylvania dropped a medical marijuana, they put in a medical marijuana bill, and then Hawaii, the couple of their bills didn't make it through, so I had to adjust the graphic map that we use for that. So I got that done today as well. This was all before the show began today at 1 o'clock. And of course, before that, I was getting the recordings re-recorded. I had to record an ad that will appear between the normal network, the spots on the normal network, so you won't hear the normal conference ad. So I had to re-record a new ad today, and did a little bit of that today as well. So all this got accomplished before noon today. So this can't be cannabis. I mean, it's got to be tobacco. Nobody could get that much stuff done under the influence of cannabis. It's just not possible, because we've heard it time and time again from the drug czar. We've heard it time and time again from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. It's got to be tobacco, Kaliko here. It's got to be tobacco, because here's the other reason I know. My wife was here earlier today. My wife was in the house. She was here, which means she hasn't left me for an alien yet. Because I read that too. I saw that on an ad once, that if I were smoking cannabis, that I would become uninteresting and slovenly, and an alien would come out of the sky and take my girlfriend away, or I suppose my wife. It's the same thing. So this has to be tobacco, because if this were cannabis, obviously, Oh, and Roscoe. Let's not forget Roscoe the dog. My beautiful Jack Russell Terrier Roscoe. He was just down here earlier. He's such a cute dog. Jumped up on my lap and licked my face. So he still loves me. I saw that other commercial where the dog, was disappointed in his master because he was a cannabis smoker. And so that's how I know this has to be tobacco. Because if this were cannabis, Roscoe would have nothing to do with me. He'd have nothing to do with me. So obviously, this must be tobacco. Obviously, it's not tobacco because it went out. But I hope you get the point. And the point is, looking at this little cigarette, looking at the man behind the mic here smoking it, do you see a crime going on? Do you see a crime going on knowing that this is cannabis, or guessing that it's tobacco? Would you see any difference in the person that's using those substances? Well, I'll tell you a few of the differences you will see. You won't see me jonesing like crazy if I can't get a hold of one of these. You won't see me freaking out about the notion that it might be taxed. I actually welcome that. You won't see me suffering from advanced forms of cancer that tend not to show up for people that tend to use cannabis and not tobacco at all. You won't see me overusing acetaminophen. In fact, I can't recall the last time I took a pain reliever, really. Even an aspirin, a Tylenol, an Aleve, any NSAID. I can't even recall the last time I took one of those drugs. And you won't see me getting sick very often. Oddly enough, they always say that marijuana affects the immune system. In fact, but yet here I am, show number 702, rarely taking a day off for being sick, and rarely do I get sick. My immune system seems to be just fine. So it seems strange to me that this is the one, this is the plant America chose to criminalize and demonize, the cannabis plant. While the tobacco plant, anyone above the age of 18 is allowed to use it. And again, it's not an idea of whether or not we approve of the use of cannabis. We certainly don't approve of the use of tobacco. Ask any smoker out there if they think tobacco use is approved of by our government, and they'll tell you it's not. They're out there shivering in the cold, outside, 50 feet away from the entrance. State law is not even allowing them to smoke in bars anymore. And yet, nobody wants to throw them in jail. And that's all I'm asking. All I'm asking is that if I'm lighting up this, you treat it the same as if it were tobacco. You can demonize it, you can say bad things about it, you can say it's unhealthy, you can have public service campaigns against it. Just don't lock me up. And stop locking all of us up for use of a plant objectively safer than tobacco. Thanks, folks, for, just for Kaliko the Intern. I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us here for Normal Show Live. Everyone will be back tomorrow to lead you into the weekend. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.